So in case you haven't been on the internet in the past 24 hours, or if you didn't hear my screaming from wherever you are in the world, Percy Jackson is officially getting a Disney Plus series. So I never upload 2 videos in 1 week, especially 2 videos on the same exact topic, but here we are. I'm actually working on 2 other videos right now that are taking a lot more effort, so those will be coming hopefully soonish, but I have a bit of a distraction currently. So ever since Disney bought 20th Century Fox earlier this year and expanded their global reign of every single intellectual property ever, Riordan's been trying to convince them to reboot Percy Jackson to a new movie or TV series on their streaming service. He's been in meetings all the time, tweeting really cryptic things for months, and as of yesterday, he officially put out a video with his wife announcing that Disney has officially given them the go to start producing the series. And for the original movies, Rick actually sold the rights to Fox before he actually published the book of The Lightning Thief, so he had no creative input on what happened in the movies, which is why we got things like Grover dancing to Poker Face at a casino. This is gonna be partially a me being excited about the series and partially me trashing the movies video. So many iconic scenes in the books were just completely glossed over in the movies or done totally wrong. And Disney and Riordan are planning to make the series span all 5 books of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which means we will get everything from The Lightning Thief to The Last Olympian, given that ratings and, budget and production and all of that goes as planned. I am so beyond excited to see all 5 of these books come to life in a faithful way, which is why today I'm going to talk about my top 10 characters, scenes, and moments in the Percy Jackson series that I want to see adapted on screen. There is so much in these books, and if each book gets its own season like the way they're planning, it's going to give us so much time to explore these characters, to put in details, to really get to know this universe, and I'm just so excited. And to be clear, this isn't me speculating what's going to happen in the series. This is just me pointing out some canon book moments that I want to see come to life. It'll be at least a year, if not more, before we see anything happening with this series as far as casting and production goes. There's so much that has to go into it before we can even start to see physical evidence of the books coming to life. So this is all just me getting way too excited way too early. In case it isn't obvious, this video is going to spoil pretty much every major plot beat of the Percy Jackson series, so if you haven't read them, it's been out for 15 years. What are you doing? I have 7 pages of notes for this video. Are you ready for this? For number 10, I wrote Annabeth Chase's snark. Yes, she has that determined attitude. She has her wits. She's so intelligent. She's so clever. But also, one thing that I kind of forget about, unless I go back and reread the books, is that she's straight up malicious sometimes. Annabeth Chase is smart to a fault. She's too intelligent for her own good, and when she is confronted with someone who is of lesser intelligence than her, she is not afraid to tell them. And it kind of cracks me up. For instance, in Sea of Monsters, on page 127, Luke is telling Annabeth that she should have joined his side, and he says, "We could have used your intelligence, Annabeth," to which she immediately replies, "Because you have none of your own." It's also really funny to remember that Annabeth is 12 in this book, and Luke is 19. This grown man is getting sassed by a middle schooler. Not to mention how salty Annabeth gets as soon as Rachel Dare comes into the picture. She wants nothing to do with it, and she makes that so abundantly clear, and it's hilarious. Number 9 is the concept of the gods and the magical creatures in general. So forgive me for praising the movies for a second here. I mean, they've been out for 10 years. I can say something good about it, right? I loved the fact that in the movies, the gods and all the magical creatures were played by massive name celebrities. Rosario Dawson was Persephone. Uma Thurman was Medusa. Stanley Tucci was Mr. D. It was such a good casting choice. We were blessed with some all-stars in that cast. And even though I do want the actual demigods, Percy, Annabeth, Grover, Luke, Thalia, everyone to be played by unknown, young, age-appropriate actors, I would love if all of the gods were known people, these big, huge names, because in canon, it's kind of a running joke that the gods kind of disguise themselves as celebrities or come to mortals in these super attractive forms. So just having actual celebrities play the gods was really fun. I would love to see Jake Abel, who played Luke in the movies, play Hermes in the series. That's my number 1 fan cast. That's the only fan cast I'm gonna have for this. I want Jake to be Hermes, that's all. And then with the magical creatures, I know we got the hippocampi in the Sea of Monsters movie, and we got Tyson, so we saw some of that, but I just cannot wait to see all the different kinds of monsters in Greek mythology come to life. That there are so many weird, obscure creatures that Riordan threw into these books. I mean, the Pegasi, the satyrs that don't dance to Poker Face. You know what I mean. And another point I want to bring up with the gods is that with Artemis and her hunters, Artemis is in the form of a young girl when she's with the hunters. So it'd be really cool to see Artemis in her young and older form with 2 different actresses, one young and one old. I'm just really excited for the concept of the gods and the creatures in general. I feel like they can do something really cool with that. Piggybacking off of that, number 8 for me is all of the fight scenes and the special effects. Now, again, in the movies, we got some of that, but we never got to The Last Olympian, so we never got to see the Battle of Manhattan, like the biggest, most elaborate fight scenes in the movie. I have no idea what kind of budget they're gonna have, how much effort they're gonna put into the CGI, but if we can judge anything from Disney Plus and their originals they already have out, like The Mandalorian. I'm also like a huge High School Musical, the musical series fan, but that doesn't have any like special effects, but still, it's good. It's good. I'm just really hoping Disney's gonna shovel some of their billions and billions of dollars into really giving us some like hardcore effects. We'll get to see all these different big cities, all the weapons they use. And yes, I know big, huge battle scenes in New York are overdone in action movies. I don't care, because this New York is Percy Jackson, New York. Number 7 for me is all the underappreciated and more minor characters and campers in the book. Selena Beauregard, Charles Beckendorf, the Stoll brothers, Katie Gardner, Will Salas. All of these characters showed up in the first or second book and ended up having a massive impact on the plot in The Last Olympian. It will add so much to the realism of Camp Half-Blood to see these characters kind of go from being background actors and just being part of the overall ensemble to slowly growing into their own independent like plot lines. I mean, Beckendorf's death is what really kicks off the events of The Last Olympian. Selena's betrayal and how she was working for Luke. If anyone forgets, Will Salas is the one that healed Annabeth after she took the hit for Percy's Achilles curse. And I feel like watching these campers grow, it's kind of like the other classmates in Harry Potter, where you see all of the other kids in Gryffindor house who may not be major characters at first, but they end up doing great things in the end. And like, that's one of the things I loved about the Harry Potter movies, is that they made sure to cast those kids and keep those kids along for the entire ride. And I'm so excited to see those campers because, again, in the movies, we didn't really see them. We got little hints of Charlie and Selena and Katie Gardner in the musical, which I'm gonna try not to make this into a praise the musical video, but the musical did some things really well. And so I can't wait to see those characters fleshed out. Number 6 for me is one other individual character, Miss Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Honestly, I'm really excited to laugh about the inevitable ship wars that are going to break out between Rachel and Percy and Rachel and Annabeth. No, Percy and Annabeth. So Rachel and Annabeth seems like a, that's a concept. In all seriousness though, Rachel is such a fun character. She's introduced in the Hoover Dam scene, which is the pinnacle of comedy in my opinion. And by the time they get around to her character in the middle of the Titan's Curse, she'll be a breath of fresh air, being a mortal living amongst demigods and being able to see through the mist. Rachel plays this crucial role in teaching Percy about the allure and the draw of just being a normal kid again. She comes into his life at a time where he's the most stressed. He's just dealt with the death of Bianca D'Angelo. He's on this quest without Annabeth, and then Rachel comes in, and she's a mortal girl who is able to help him, but also able to show him that maybe just being a regular kid isn't so bad. In this series, multiple times, Percy contemplates just leaving the prophecy behind and living a normal life. And he's given multiple opportunities to do that. And having Rachel there as both a character foil and a love interest conflict really adds to the depth of Percy's decision-making on whether or not he wants to really have the life that he's given. I mean, the first line of the book is, "Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood." And that is a consistent plot throughout the whole series. He's very conflicted on whether or not he actually wants this life for himself. And Rachel shows him all the good of life outside of being a demigod. So I can't wait to see her character and see how they handle all of that. Speaking of characters who tempt Percy with normalcy and leaving the prophecy, number 5 for me is Calypso and Calypso's Island. So Battle of the Labyrinth is my favorite book because there are just so many crucial turning points in that book. But the number one scene in that book for me is when Percy is on Calypso's island and he learns that he can give up the prophecy and just stay there with her. If we get some solid storytelling and writing for the series, I imagine that we'd spend an entire episode just on the island, and the only characters you see are Percy, Calypso, and Hephaestus for an entire 30 minutes. I want to see that full storyline play out where Calypso's life has affected Percy so much that one of his wishes to the gods after he defeats Kronos is, you need to free her. You need to right your wrongs. You need to make this okay. He realizes while he's there on that island that he has a duty to his world and to the prophecy, to his friends and to camp, but also he doesn't feel ashamed of not wanting that anymore, you know? I mean, he's a kid. He's a kid. They're gonna cast child actors. Percy will actually be played by an appropriately aged person. Listen, I love Logan Lerman, but Percy is 12, so. Number 4 for me is overall the shenanigans at Camp Half-Blood. Listen, I want campfire songs. I want inter-cabin prank wars. I want to see the infirmary and the strawberry fields and the big house and everything at Camp Half-Blood. Again, yeah, the movies gave us some of that and they gave us the one capture the flag scene, but I want to see hardcore capture the flag happening multiple times throughout that series. The book spends so much more time hanging out just at camp than we realize. Yeah, the main characters go off on their quest and they are away from camp for a good amount of time, but when we are there, we learn so much about the culture of Camp Half-Blood. I want to see fancy interior design. I want to see the inside of all the cabins. I want to see all the campers that are siblings hanging out at their individual tables. One of the only valid scenes from the movies was the obstacle course with the Fall Out Boy song playing in the background. Like, that was A+. I want more of that. And more than anything, give us the Camp Half-Blood necklaces. They are such an important symbol in the series. The fact that Annabeth has all of her beads from the years she was there, that she's been there longer than some of the camp counselors. She came to Camp Half-Blood when she was 7 years old. The fact that Percy keeps other trinkets on his camp necklace. Like, I just can't wait to see Camp Half-Blood done right. Number 3 for me is the D'Angelo siblings, Bianca and Nico D'Angelo. They were introduced in book 3, The Titan's Curse, and went on to become some of the most pivotal characters in this series. Bianca D'Angelo's death is the first major character death in these books, and it really puts Percy's entire quest into perspective. Like, no one's ever died before because of something he did, a mistake he made, or something in the prophecy that was inevitable, and he realizes, like, this is serious business now. Like, people are going to get hurt, people are going to die. We never got to Titan's Curse in any adaptation aside from one tiny little cameo of Bianca in the musical. Again, I'm going to stop talking about the musical. So we never really got to see the D'Angelo siblings cast, which is so great because they get to do it right the first time. Also, I am so excited to watch, like, annoying, talkative, overexcited 10-year-old Nico turn into 13-year-old, hardened, shunned, rejected Nico. After the loss of his sister, after learning his godly parent being shunned from camp, whatever child actor gets cast as Nico D'Angelo is going to have so much on his plate, so many high expectations, but I know they're gonna kill it. I mean, even from one book to the other, watching Nico in Titan's Curse talk about his mytho magic and his pirates, and then going on to Battle of the Labyrinth where he betrays Percy more than once. He's on his own separate mission to try to bring his sister back. Also, with the Nico storyline, there's so much opportunity for them to do little things in the writing for the fans who have read the later books. Just throw in little things here and there so we could be like that one Leonardo DiCaprio meme where we're like, wait a second. Did they? Because they did. And they have the opportunity to do that. Not just with Nico, with a bunch of different characters, which I'll get back to that in a second. The Titan's Curse is pretty widely favorited as the best book in the series among at least the people that I see in the fandom. So I feel like the Titan's Curse is going to be so cool. It's going to be an interesting plot to tackle because Annabeth's hardly there when she has been through the first 2 books. So on top of the D'Angelos and Annabeth getting gone, you have the whole plot with holding up the sky. You have the Hunters of Artemis and Zoe Nightshade. Zoe Nightshade, another impactful character death. The second character death in this book and the second in the series. Like, Titan's Curse got real. Personally, I'm just super, super pumped for that. Number 2, come on, you knew it was coming. You drool when you sleep. The ultimate beginning to my favorite rivals to friends to lovers relationships ever. And yes, the underwater kiss is iconic. Yes, we all love their first kiss in Battle of the Labyrinth. Yeah, the don't I get a kiss for good luck in the middle of the battle in The Last Olympian is perfect. And we all just about died in The Last Olympian when Percy showed Annabeth his vulnerable spot from the Achilles curse and they just sat there holding hands. Like, honestly, Percabeth invented romance. As much as I cannot wait to see their relationship progress, I'm more excited to see their first meeting. I mean, think about it. Percy woke up after defeating the Minotaur. His mom is gone, he has no idea where he is. He opens his eyes, and the first thing he sees is a girl who he describes as being pretty and having her hair curled like a princess. And what are the first words out of Annabeth's mouth when she sees Percy for the first time? He's the one. I know he is. Now, she was talking about the prophecy, but she was also really not talking about the prophecy. Childhood friends to lovers is exactly my cup of tea, and watching them progress from you drool when you sleep to because you're my friend, see we brain any more stupid questions to their slow dance in Titan's Curse that sounded a little sad but also a little hopeful to Annabeth in the Battle of the Labyrinth taking her chance because she thinks she's never going to see him again. Just, ugh. I am all about a slow burn and I'm so ready for it. And yet, that's not my number 1. My number 1 most anticipated thing that I want to see in the Percy Jackson series is the development between Thalia, Luke, and Annabeth. And yes, I'm more excited about this than the Percy Annabeth. Listen, let me explain. Thalia, Luke, and Annabeth's story was my favorite part of the original series. Found family stories just warm my heart And this one just gets completely flipped on its back. They were 3 runaway kids, all rejected by their parents, finding solace in one another, traveling together, fighting alongside each other, making this pact to not give up on each other because everyone else in the rest of the world has given up on them. And then they're ripped apart by the same thing that brought them together. You learn the details of their story throughout the entire series, and the final puzzle pieces don't really fall in until the last Olympian. So across the entire series, we get to see the trickling details. Annabeth was 7 years old when she ran away. Thalia was 10, Luke was 12. These are babies, they're little children. And you have to remember that once they got to Half-Blood Hill, when Thalia died, the only people in the world she had were Luke, Annabeth, and Grover. And so when she wakes up and finds out that Luke has betrayed the camp, that Annabeth has a whole new circle of friends, and that Grover is the protector of a new demigod, she has no one in this world who is her family anymore. And again, like I said, they can throw in little details about stuff that happens in the later series, whereas fans who have read the other books, it can be like, like if Thalia mentions, for instance, her little brother who vanished when she was young, maybe, who knows. Thalia Grace wakes up to find that her entire world has been upside down. The one person who she trusted has betrayed her and her entire camp. The little girl who she took care of is now the same age as her, and nothing is the way she thought it would be. Remember, they were on their way to Camp Half-Blood, anticipating relief, no more being chased by monsters, no more being on the run, no more being hungry at night, and yet she wakes up to this world that's entirely different. And I promise this is the last time I mention the Percy Jackson musical in this video. But if nothing else, I don't care if you don't like musical theater, if you think the musical is cheesy, if you think it's weird that adults are playing kids on stage, I want you to disregard that for just a second. If you never listened to anything else related to the musical ever in your life, I want you to go and listen to Tree on the Hill. It's a song sung by Grover in Act 2 of the musical where he tells Percy about how Thalia died. During the show, it's set up in a way where Thalia, Luke, and Annabeth are up on a set piece above Percy and Grover. And while they're singing the backing vocals for Grover's song, they're also just kind of hugging each other and reaching out for each other. While Grover sings about how they got lost and turned around and the monsters found them and there was nothing they could do and that Thalia sacrificed herself for them. It has this lyric where Grover sings, "Maybe if I'd been a little bit braver, maybe if I'd stayed behind to fight, but maybe doesn't let me go back and save her, maybe doesn't make it all right." And when I tell you I cried in the middle of that theater, where I was the only person over 18 who didn't have a child with me, I'm sitting there like hiding behind my playbill, wiping my tears. The song is so good and it perfectly summarizes Thalia, Luke, and Annabeth's previous history in 3 minutes. Now imagine if we had the entire series to expand on it. And again, in the musical, we don't get to see Thalia wake up and realize that she's been betrayed. We only get to see the backstory of it. And like, even just the background hurts your heart enough, but then you remember you get to go on and see Thalia confront Luke for the first time after he's completely betrayed her and everything they've known. I also just really love that Thalia joined the Hunters so that she wouldn't have to be the child of the prophecy. She's conflicted and angry and hurt about having to fight Luke, so she decides that she can't do it anymore and she won't. I mean, in the Titan's Curse on page 154, Percy and Grover are talking to Thalia about how Luke betrayed the camp, and all Thalia can say is, "Luke never let me down. Never." And even at the end of this book, when Thalia and Luke are fighting, they have that confrontation where she has this opportunity to really hurt, if not kill him. And Annabeth is off to the side screaming, "Please no, don't do it. We can save him. We can help him." These two girls, Luke was their only family, and they don't want to believe that he's gone to the wayside, and they still want to have some faith in him. And they're both so conflicted that even the prophecy in Battle of the Labyrinth with Annabeth losing a love to worse than death, they make it Percy's job because they can't handle the idea of losing even more of their family. I love it for the angst, but I'm also just really excited to see Thalia kick Luke off a mountain. And that is it. I've been rambling for way too long, and yes, obviously the way I broke it down ended up being more than just 10 things, but come on, I'm working with 5 books here, and there is so much I'm excited for. I've been reading these books since I was a kid. If you remember that joy of seeing like Harry Potter or the Hunger Games come to life in a faithful adaptation, I'm glad the Percy Jackson fans are finally getting a second chance at it. Again, of course, this is all wishful thinking and none of us have any idea what's going to happen with this series, but if it does end up being what we want, those are the things that I want to see. We don't know how good the show is going to be, we don't know how long it's going to air, we don't know if it'll get cancelled mid-season 2 and we'll never see a conclusion. I mean, we're going to hope it doesn't get cancelled, but you know. But we do know that Rick Riordan is 100% on board for this and he has his creative input, and so we know that no matter what we do get, it'll be something worthwhile. And I cannot be happier to have an author who's going to fight for his work to be represented correctly. This is something we've all hoped for years, and at the very least, I hope it just slightly meets our expectations. Regardless of how it turns out though, I'm just glad we're getting another shot. So thank you all for listening to my rambling. If you guys have any moments in the series that you guys love that I didn't talk about, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'll chat with you guys about it. If you like this video and other bookish things, feel free to subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on my Instagram. That link is down in the description below. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.